Mike Peplow from BancTec. We're talking today about the BancPay e-invoicing platform. Dynamic discounting is front of mind for a lot of shared services leaders right now. To what extent is dynamic discounting part of the feature set of the BancPay solution?
Well, working with our large clients, particularly in the corporate and banking sector, the whole area of supplier chain financing is actually a big topic right now. And I would say it goes beyond dynamic discounting. It's clearly part of the mix, but I think it's not the whole picture by any means. And it certainly isn't the primary objective for a lot of organizations. They want to see working capital liquidity down through the supply chain. And although the dynamic discounting can help that, I think there are other techniques and products that are going to be equally important. Now, what we've decided to do is just hold back on our supplier chain finance module until October this year. And it'll be pretty extensive when it arrives. And it'll be unique in that it will allow a buyer to supplier or a supplier to buyer to make an offer. But it will also allow a third party, such as a bank or a financing fund, to get involved and add further liquidity in the system. Now, I think this is going to be really important, and I think what we're going to find is governments in particular are going to be incredibly supportive about using this type of approach to get liquidity down to small businesses. So I think supplier chain finance as an area is incredibly important. However, looking at the research that we've done, right now only 14% of suppliers actually get made a discount in offer. And of that 14%, actually a very low percentage take up those offers. I think that's primarily because they're not well targeted, and I think right now they're probably using discount rates that are a little too high. Now, I think all those things are fixable, and BancPay will certainly fix a lot of those issues. So I think it's a really interesting area, but if I'm being a little honest with you here, Susie, I think it's a little overhyped by the industry right now.
Okay, interesting views there. And it sounds like the technology needs to be in place to make the adoption of the dynamic discounting opportunities very easy for a supplier to take. And also, as you mentioned, the discounting rates need to be attractive for the supplier. So talking about numbers being attractive for the users, we talked about pricing on the supplier side in the earlier chapter. As far as the ROI that a company might look to make when signing up to BancPay, what does that actually look like? What's the kind of period that an ROI should be realized within?
Well, the great thing about BancPay, of course, is you don't have any initial investment. We in BancTec have made that initial investment. And because it's a cloud-based service, it is available 24/7, 365 days of the year. And because of the commitment we're making to this market, you can sign up and register with BancPay, and you can be using it 10, 15 minutes later. And it's cost you nothing. So you can get value out of using BancPay immediately. And I think that's the great thing about this market. You get value if you're a sole trader immediately, and you get value if you're a large corporation immediately. Now, sure, the large corporation, might go on and leverage more value by getting into areas like dynamic discounting or better use of interoperability agreements, or perhaps, using more complex management methodologies to manage their business. But what I can say is that regardless who you are, when you register with BancPay, you send your first invoice, you're getting value.
So if I could just focus on the buyer experience, if an organization signs up to use the BancPay solution to send invoices to their customers, but also to receive invoices from their suppliers, would they be subscribing to the same subscription model that you referred to in the earlier chapter, where the first 10 or so invoices per month are actually complimentary, and then you start moving into a different range of invoices and pricing attached to that range?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. We treat companies as an entity, not as a buyer or supplier. We come back and we say everybody buys, everybody supplies. Therefore, let's produce a platform that allows that to happen, that's pretty neutral, at a cost level that, quite frankly, for most people is pretty trivial. And I think what that'll do is that'll gain adoption rates in the market. And I think if we can make the adoption rates increase and we can get momentum in the market, that's going to be good for the whole industry. Not just good for BancTec. Of course, we'd like to see that happen. But I think it'll be good for everybody if we can increase the adoption rates, increase the innovation in the industry, drive out perhaps some of the artificially high costs, and get everybody trading together.
I'm going to ask you my final question in this chapter about the legal treatment of an invoice. So it sounds like it's a very exciting proposition that you're looking to extend out to the market. Financially, it doesn't sound like there's too much that needs to be invested from a company to send or receive invoices. Let me just ask regarding the legal treatment of an invoice, recognizing that it is indeed a document that needs to be treated in a certain manner country by country. How does that feature into your handling of the electronic invoice?
Right, yeah, another good question. Each country can set up a specific configuration so that we understand that the UK is different to Sweden, is different to France, is different to the United States of America. So within BancPay, there is a concept of every country can be configured separately. Now that's very useful in terms of what the regulatory environment is or the legal environment surrounding an invoice. But it's also really useful because each country has different payment mechanisms and different ways of printing invoices and accepting and receiving payments around invoices. Now, because BancPay is a global company and because we've got operations in most countries, we have to trade ourselves. So we've actually got internally a huge amount of knowledge on the legal and regulatory parameters around how to trade electronically or how to trade non-electronically for that matter. So I think one of the benefits that BancTec brings is the fact that we are a global company. We also use this system ourselves, so we've had to try it and make sure it works, and we're a pretty complex organization, quite frankly. And I think the idea within BancPay that we've built in, country-specific configuration just shows you how well it's designed. I should also add, by the way, that it is also language independent. So you can have two people in the same organization working together in the same department, and one working in Swedish, the next person working in French, and the person after working in English. And if they refer an invoice from, say, one person to another, the language naturally switches in terms of their user interface. So we've spent a lot of effort and a lot of time trying to make sure that it's very configurable, it's right for specific markets. And I think the final thing I'd mention is that, what we're seeing is a growing set of EU regulations that we can also overlay on top of the country-specific regulations. And I think that is something that's going to be growingly important going forward as well.
So, Mike Peplow, to draw this interview to a close, as a company which is privately held, how strategic is the BancPay development for BancTec itself?
We never enter a market lightly. Entering this market and making the decision to enter this market, has been a long process. It's involved millions of dollars, not just of development, but of marketing and research as well. BancTec is committed to this market for the long term. Hopefully, everything I've pointed out suggests that we're going to be here in the long term. I am in charge of this program. I report to the board. It gets reviewed by our board every quarter. So we're committed, we're going to be here, we're going to invest in this market, and I think we hope that by bringing in an innovative and competitive offering that the market will benefit from that. I believe it will. I think it's going to be a lot of fun going forward. I think we can be successful, and we're going to try our very best to offer a great service to our customers.
Mike Peplow, Senior Vice President and President EMEA at BancTec. Thank you very much indeed.